Imagine a sound so loud it travels across oceans, a thunderous roar that echoes across the world, shaking the very air and water. It was a noise so powerful, sailors on distant ships thought they were under attack, and people living hundreds of miles away believed war had broken out. The world had never heard anything like it before. The sound was mistaken for cannon fire, echoing across the seas and confusing naval officers and coastal towns alike. For days, reports of mysterious explosions poured in from far-flung places, all tracing back to a single, unimaginable source. On April 10, 1815, Mount Tambora erupted in Indonesia, the most violent volcanic eruption in recorded history. The mountain, once over 14,000 feet tall, was torn apart in a matter of hours, its summit collapsing as the earth unleashed its fury. The eruption blasted the mountain's peak into the sky, sending a towering column of ash, rock, and gas nearly 30 miles high, reaching the edge of space. The force was so immense it was felt and heard thousands of miles away. Darkness fell as hot ash rained down, burying entire villages and suffocating the land. Tsunamis triggered by the eruption crashed onto nearby islands, sweeping away homes and lives in an instant. Poisonous gases filled the air, choking survivors and making the very act of breathing dangerous. Farmland was destroyed, crops withered under layers of ash, and water sources became tainted and undrinkable. The devastation was just beginning. Survivors wandered through a landscape transformed into a wasteland, searching for food and shelter as the world they knew vanished before their eyes. Tambora's eruption hurled vast amounts of sulfurous gas and ash into the stratosphere, where powerful winds carried this veil of particles around the globe, far beyond Indonesia. This thin, reflective layer of ash and gas would soon dim the sunlight, cooling the planet and plunging the world into a period of bizarre and deadly weather. Crops failed, snow fell in summer, and famine spread, all triggered by a single monumental explosion that changed the course of history. In the months following the eruption of Tambora, the world found itself shrouded beneath a strange and ominous veil. Volcanic aerosols, invisible to the naked eye but powerful in their effect, circled the globe high in the atmosphere. These fine particles, hurled skyward by the eruption's fury, drifted across continents and oceans, transforming the very nature of the sky above. The sun, once a reliable source of warmth and light, now struggled to pierce through this global haze. Day after day, the world seemed dimmer, as if a filter had been placed over the lens of life itself. Sunsets blazed with eerie reds and purples, their intensity unlike anything seen before. Artists like J.M.W. Turner captured these surreal skies, their canvases filled with colors that seemed almost otherworldly. For many, these sunsets were a source of wonder and inspiration, but few realized they were witnessing the aftershocks of a global disaster. The beauty of the painted sky was a silent testament to the chaos unfolding below. Yet beneath this spectacle, a hidden danger lurked. The same particles that painted the sky with vibrant hues also blocked and scattered sunlight, preventing its warmth from reaching the ground. The sun appeared pale and weak, its rays filtered and diminished by the persistent haze. The world grew colder, shadows lengthened, and the familiar rhythm of day and night felt altered. Across Europe and North America, a persistent dry fog settled in, refusing to lift for weeks on end. It was not the damp mist of early morning, but a strange dry haze that dulled the landscape and made the air feel heavy. People described it as a fog that neither wind nor rain could dispel, a constant reminder that something was deeply wrong with the world. From space, the planet now wore a dusty coat, its atmosphere thick with volcanic debris. Sunlight, instead of warming the Earth, was reflected back into space, leaving the ground below in a perpetual state of twilight. The world's energy balance had shifted, and the consequences would soon become impossible to ignore. Global temperatures began to drop, disrupting the natural rhythm of the seasons. Summer days felt more like autumn, with unexpected frosts and even snowfall in months that should have been warm and bright. Crops struggled to grow, and people found themselves shivering in clothing meant for milder weather. Even a small decrease in warmth was enough to throw climate systems into chaos. Weather patterns became unpredictable, with storms and cold snaps striking without warning. Farmers watched the skies anxiously, unsure if their fields would survive the next sudden chill. The world was about to experience a year of climatic upheaval. Floods, droughts, and unseasonal cold would soon sweep across continents, leaving devastation in their wake. Newspapers reported strange weather and failed harvests as communities struggled to adapt to a world turned upside down. 1816 would be remembered as the year without a summer, a time when the sun disappeared, the seasons faltered, and the world was forced to confront the power of nature's fury. Spring never arrived in 1816. Across the world, people waited for the familiar signs of warmth and renewal, but instead, the land remained locked in a stubborn chill. Trees stood bare, and fields that should have been bursting with life were eerily silent. The usual songs of birds and the buzz of insects were replaced by the howling wind and the crunch of frost underfoot. Winter's grip lingered across the northern hemisphere. Even as the calendar promised spring, snow and ice refused to retreat. Rivers remained frozen and the air was thick with a biting cold that seemed endless. People bundled in heavy clothes, shivering through days that should have been warm and bright. In New England, May frosts killed crops. In June, snow blanketed Vermont and Maine. Farmers, who depended on the land for survival, watched in disbelief as their fields turned white instead of green. Hopes for a fruitful harvest faded with every icy morning, and families grew anxious about what the coming months would bring. People were stunned by summer snowstorms, their livelihoods at risk. Children gazed out windows at snowdrifts in June, while adults worried about empty pantries and hungry mouths. Communities gathered to share what little they had, but fear and uncertainty spread as quickly as the cold. Europe fared no better. Endless rain, floods, and cold battered the continent. Torrential downpours ruined crops and washed away roads. Villages flooded, and the sun seemed to vanish behind thick gray clouds. The relentless weather made daily life a struggle, and food shortages soon followed. Glaciers advanced in Switzerland and it snowed in the lowlands every month. Farmers and townsfolk alike watched in awe and fear as the ice crept closer, swallowing pastures and threatening homes. The natural world seemed turned upside down, with winter refusing to give way to summer. Crops failed everywhere. Corn didn't ripen, wheat rotted, hay withered. The fields, once the backbone of rural life, became graveyards for plants that never stood a chance. Livestock suffered too, as there was little to feed them, and the threat of famine loomed over entire regions. Farmers watched their work vanish, and food supplies dwindled. Markets emptied, and prices soared. Families rationed what little they had, often going to bed hungry. The sense of desperation grew as each day passed without relief. The year without a summer, also called 1800 and froze to death, became a symbol of climate's power. Newspapers chronicled the misery, and stories spread of people huddling around fires in July, trying to keep warm in what should have been the height of summer. Tambora's eruption had dropped global temperatures by up to 3 degrees Celsius. The massive cloud of ash and gas blocked sunlight, altering weather patterns across the globe. Few understood the cause at the time, but the effects were felt everywhere, from Asia to the Americas. The world learned how a distant volcano could disrupt life everywhere. The eruption's reach was global, reminding humanity of its vulnerability to nature's forces. Communities thousands of miles apart shared the same hardship, bound together by a disaster they could neither predict nor control. The consequences would be felt for years to come. Famine, migration, and hardship reshaped societies, leaving scars that would last a generation. The year without a summer stands as a stark reminder of how fragile our world can be in the face of nature's might. Crop failures quickly led to famine and soaring food prices. In Ireland, famine and typhus claimed thousands. In Switzerland, people ate moss and stray animals to survive. Food riots erupted across Europe, and families abandoned their homes in search of food. In America, the disaster pushed settlers westward, reshaping the nation's future. Amid the darkness, creativity flourished. Mary Shelley, trapped by the cold at Lake Geneva, began writing Frankenstein. The bleak summer inspired Gothic horror, and left a deep scar on a generation. Tambora's legacy was a stark lesson in our dependence on stable climate. The world would never forget the strange, cold summer that changed everything. For decades, Tambora was just a dramatic story from history, but as global warming accelerated, scientists saw Tambora as a real-world experiment in planetary cooling. The eruption's aerosols cooled the Earth. Could we do the same on purpose? This idea sparked the field of geoengineering, deliberately altering Earth's systems to counteract climate change. Solar Radiation Management or SRM, aims to reflect sunlight and cool the planet, inspired by volcanic eruptions. Events like Tambora and Pinatubo prove that injecting aerosols into the stratosphere can lower global temperatures, but the risks and ethical questions are enormous. Stratospheric aerosol injection is geoengineering's most discussed method, an artificial mimic of volcanoes. High-altitude planes would spray sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, forming a reflective layer to cool the planet. Models suggest this could offset decades of warming, buying time to cut emissions, but the risks are serious. Weather patterns could shift, causing droughts or floods in vulnerable regions. This method doesn't remove CO2, so ocean acidification and other problems would persist. It's a temporary fix, not a cure, like taking painkillers for a broken leg, and once started, it would need to be maintained for generations. Scientists have proposed other bold ideas for cooling the planet. Marine cloud brightening would spray sea salt into ocean clouds, making them whiter and more reflective. This could protect sensitive regions like coral reefs, but scaling up would be a massive challenge. Even more ambitious, building a giant sunshade in space to block a fraction of sunlight. Such a project would be the largest engineering feat in history, requiring global cooperation and trillions of dollars. Like other SRM ideas, it wouldn't solve ocean acidification or the root causes of climate change. These concepts remain speculative, with huge technical and political hurdles. The risks of failure or misuse are daunting. Controlling Earth's temperature sounds tempting, but it's a dangerous gamble. The law of unintended consequences looms large. Cooling one region could trigger drought or famine in another. Who decides the right temperature for the planet? There's also the threat of termination shock. If geoengineering stopped suddenly, rapid warming could devastate ecosystems. Once started, such projects would require unwavering global cooperation for centuries. Rogue deployment by a nation or individual could spark geopolitical crises. Most scientists warn geoengineering is not a solution, but a last resort emergency measure. It doesn't cure our addiction to fossil fuels, and the side effects could be catastrophic. The mere existence of this easy fix could undermine efforts to cut emissions, a dangerous moral hazard. The path is tempting, but treacherous. The story of Tambora brings us to a crossroads. Today we're conducting our own experiment, warming the planet with greenhouse gases. Geoengineering offers radical options, but the risks are immense. The safest, most effective solution is clear: reduce emissions, transition to clean energy, and protect our planet. Scientists study geoengineering to understand its dangers and prepare for emergencies, not as a substitute for real action. The lesson of 1816 is simple. Our actions have global consequences. We must work together to heal the planet, not gamble with its future. Only by addressing the root causes can we build a safer, more sustainable world for all.